Good evening, everyone. Today is March 21st, 2016, and welcome back to Veterans Voices, a monthly talk show focusing on your issues, veterans issues. I'm Nathan Johnson, the Contra Costa County Veterans Service Officer, and I'm joined again by Gold Star father and Calvet Link, Kevin Graves.
Nathan?
Good to have you back, Kevin. It's been a couple months since we've been on the show together.
I think so.
Tonight is about vets serving vets. Our goal is to celebrate the veteran and introduce you to individuals who use their skills and passions to help other veterans. You can do this too. Join us while we celebrate this continued spirit of service to others.
We'd love to hear your voice tonight. Call, email, or anonymous chat with us. The information appears below. Are you a veteran helping other veterans? Do you know someone who works or volunteers for veterans? What do they do? Don't forget that sharing your experience could inspire someone to do the same and help a veteran. Joining us now is Dr. Shauna Springer and Brian Vargas. They have both been on the show before, but tonight they're going to share with us something that they've been working on. So welcome, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Shauna, in fact, you were just on the show last month, so it's fantastic to have you back. I wasn't here for the show, but I got to watch it. It was an excellent show on moral injury. Yes. Brian, you've been on a couple episodes. In fact, you've worked on the show for several months in the past.
That's true. Very true.
So welcome again. Brian, just real quickly for our audience, give us a little scoop on your service in the military and what's going on in your life today. What things are you doing?
All right. I am an 0311. I'm an infantryman. I was in the Marine Corps. I served in Iraq with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines Lima Company, and after getting out of the Marines in 2009 and starting my first semester at community college at DVC in 2010, it's taken me a good couple years, about 6 years, but I'll be graduating from UC Berkeley in May. May 14th, I'll be walking across that stage. Finally.
Congratulations.
Go Bears.
That's
great. Go Bears, definitely.
With a degree in social welfare. So with an intent of doing what?
Serving veterans. So this show is right in line with my future career. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Shauna, I've known you, but I didn't have the chance to interview you last month. Kevin did a great job. But tell us a little bit about your role and as a psychologist and serving veterans.
Okay, well, I work at the VA, have been there for about 7 years. I'm not here representing the VA, as an entity, just, again, myself as a practicing psychologist who really cares about the veterans that I work with and feels really inspired by the people I work with.
That's fantastic. So you two collaborated on an effort together through the process of working together as a clinician and a patient, you might say. You guys developed a bond, and it became much more than that with regards to a common goal. So tell us a little bit about your Live For box.
Well, I've got to say, to start off, when I started with Dr. Springer in 2009 when I got out, and it took a couple years, but it's a trust that needs to develop with between a client or a patient and a clinician, and over time that's something that developed. About a year and a half ago now, Dr. Springer brought up the concept of the Live For box. Before it got its name, right? It was this little ring, like an engagement ring box with a photo and a pair of keys in it. And at the time, I was definitely going through some, I was going through some suicide thoughts, issues, some stuff like that. It's always hard to admit that, right? Because I want to, I have so much to live for, which is how the name for the box really came about. But with working with Dr. Springer, going home, working with my wife, Monica, right, and kind of putting some of these thoughts into practice, going out there and trying to practice what I preach, the Live For box developed. And what it is, it's a way for a veteran or active duty service member to tangibly put what they live for and what they are committing to serving for their family, for their country, whatever the case may be, and put into something like this, a box, right? And with that, we hope that their keys to their weapons go in there as well. And in times of stress or times of crisis, when someone goes to their weapon, to honestly to want to kill themselves, right? There's that thought when it may be an impulse. It usually is an impulse, right? And that a photo, or maybe you accidentally grab your dog tags instead of the keys, right? And that right there is something that's just a little bit of a reminder that, hey, let's rethink this thought I'm going through right now.
So we're addressing the issue of suicide, and we've talked about it on this show before. We had an episode in 2014, our first year, in which we called it Suicide It's Worth Talking About.
Right.
So we're kind of coming back to that with the perspective of a veteran and a psychologist versus an agency. So we're not just talking about phone numbers, we're not just talking about websites, and we're not talking about checklists and such. We're talking about a very unique, revolutionary idea to take a very simple box. What are we looking at, Brian? I mean, I know what it is, but what are we looking at there?
This is my personal live for box, right? This is pretty much the first one that.
But what is that green object in your hand?
So this is an ammo can. An ammo can is something that, you know, that's an ammo can. There's ammo in it. We take them out to the field. Ammunition, right. And throughout the process of working with Dr. Springer, you know, in some cases I had to really pick through my own brain and do some soul searching of what would really, for me, what do I really want to live for, and what's brought me to where I am today in my education, in my role as a husband, and as a, you know, as just a human being trying to be a productive member, be a productive member of society. So what we hope will go in here, and Doc help me out with you know, some of the items that we can talk about, right? So some things that you know we hope that would go in there is something. For me, this is an old contact sheet, right? We get these when you're in the barracks, whatnot. Call your battle buddies or call your, I don't know, your fire team or whatnot. For me, it's the last point of contact I have for a buddy of mine that on that show I expressed how that affected me in my life, right? Sean, and so that went in there for me. My wife and her wedding vows, right? She wrote her vows. We each wrote our vows to each other, and for a long time she couldn't find them. Kind of thought they were missing, but I've always kind of had, I guess, my live for box, right? Just in different places, and I just finally was able to consolidate it. So that right there really is a big item that.
And that's a picture of your wife?
This is a picture of my wife right here, yeah. Monica, she's been on the show.
She has.
She was actually the first, I think she was on the first episode.
She was.
On the first episode. Another couple items on here is, well, we'll just, you know, for me personally, these are just some rounds that when I was wounded in combat, right?
In Iraq?
I was wounded in Iraq, and while I was shot, I was also blown up, I guess you would say, by some 5.56 rounds from some ammunition. And
can I take a look at that?
Yeah. These are some of the rounds there, and those right there blew up in my face. I've got some shrapnel in there still. So, but another item would be that right there. I was, I guess, what you call awarded the Purple Heart, not necessarily one.
You gotta pass these around.
Okay, yeah, my bad. There you go. Yeah, right. And so these are some of the things that, you know, there's some other stuff in there, but this is some of the stuff that, for me, in the time of crisis, and there's been that I can point out really quick to you guys here is there's been some times that the box worked in the moment, and it was completely by accident, if you will. I didn't plan it. It was while things were still being put in there and all that. And what happened is I knew that my gun keys were my gun lock keys were in there, and I was like, damn it, let me just get to the keys, right? And so I'm going in there, and it was actually one of the rounds that were in there for some reason caught a glimpse of light, and it just, in that moment that I was grabbing my 45, it was it just quickly just threw a change of thought, right? It put a quick break to that suicide train that might have been going off.
It's interrupting that suicidal ideation. It's interrupting the almost kind of spontaneous moment of grabbing a weapon or a means of hurting yourself.
Right.
And giving you something else to live for or reflect about instead of that weapon, so that you can live again another day, right?
And that's really where the idea came from, was talking with veterans that have had near-death experiences, there are two kinds of near-death experiences. When your life is nearly taken from you, if you're in a combat scenario and there's an RPG coming at your head, people often have the experience of time slowing down and seeing the faces of those that they love, sometimes urging them to fight if they're hit, to fight for life. But when we're talking about an impulsive chain of suicide thought, it's darkness and despair and disconnection. It's very different. And so I really thought if we can leverage the power of connection to fight despair in these key moments, that's really going to decrease the number of suicides. And Brian and I actually did a survey.
We did.
For UC Berkeley. There were about 70 vets in the survey, and we can talk more about some of the details, but about 75% felt it would reduce impulsive firearm suicides.
So as you felt this was working for you, Brian and Shauna, when you saw that this was being effective, because this was just an idea that was on your desk one day, and all of a sudden it went, okay, maybe this, this might work. You decided that this may work for a greater cause, and so the thought came up to present this to other veterans, and hence the survey. And so you're trying to move this forward and give the opportunity and the thought process, share it with your fellow veterans and with some of the other people you may work with too, I guess.
And the trust really goes both ways, because we worked on building that trust, and I had to think about who to float the idea to. And I knew Brian would tell me honestly what he thought, and he just took it and he ran with it. You gave it the name Live For Box, and we've had a healthy collaboration to serve other vets. And this is, what a healthy collaboration looks like.
I think that's so interesting, because what you're describing is an idea in which you sought a veteran's input and advice on, right? Because you originally came up with this idea, is what you're saying. And instead of just in a roundtable discussion and looking at data and kind of bureaucratically saying, well, this is how we're going to solve this problem, you said, well, if a veteran thinks that this is going to help him, maybe another veteran will think it's going to help them as well. Because we're really just looking at a basic concept of a box and things you can't buy, right? So you can't sell this to anyone. Someone has to either be handed this and put this box and put their own things in it that mean something to them, or they start with something like an ammo can and put a picture on top and even label it, like you've done, Brian. I think it's fantastic, and I hope our audience is watching. I hope that you're listening and paying attention and as energized by this idea as we are. I'd like to invite you to call in and ask questions for Brian and Shauna. We only have them on the show for a few more seconds, but love to have you call in with questions or comments, or you can email or chat. Brian, before we go away, what does this mean to you?
What does this mean to me is, this means that for me, not being able to go back, honestly, from a very honest standpoint, not being able to go back on our 2008 deployment or our 2009 deployment to Afghanistan, really hurt, man. It was one of those things that I felt a lot of shame with. I felt a lot of guilt. I feel like I let a lot of my friends down, and this is one of the things where this helps. I want to give back. I want to keep serving, so.
You certainly are serving, and I think a lot of veterans feel like you didn't give enough. You should have given more, and I think it's fantastic that you and Shauna. I think it's phenomenal that you're on here tonight, because I think a lot of people are asking the question: well, should we really be putting keys at the bottom of a box after all? Shouldn't we just be taking the weapons away? And you're giving credibility to, I think, a phenomenal opportunity for veterans to keep themselves safe. If they're going to have things that are potentially going to put them at risk, put them at the bottom of a box in which they have to really kind of work through these memories and these reasons to live for. So thank you very much, Brian and Shauna, for being on the show. We'll hope to have more discussions with you in the future. Shauna and Brian, thanks again for joining us. And recently, a Marine veteran stopped by our set to share what he's doing to help veterans in Contra Costa County as a staff representative for Supervisor John Joya in our district here, District 1 of Contra Costa County. Watch with us while we continue to celebrate vets serving vets. This is a special interview with James Lyons, Marine Corps veteran and district coordinator for District 1, Supervisor John Joya. Welcome to the set of Veterans Voices, James.
Thank you for having me, Nathan. I do appreciate it.
So as I introduced, you are a veteran. You served in the Marine Corps. Tell us a little bit about your service in the military.
So my service in the Marine Corps consisted of boot camp, combat training for 3 weeks at Camp Pendleton down in Oceanside, California.
Nice place.
Beautiful,
Right.
but not nearly as nice as the 8 months that I spent in Pensacola, Florida,
Oh my gosh.
getting the basic electronics training before going to Naval Air Station Oceana for another 5 months before eventually ending up at Cherry Point in North Carolina.
So you're the district coordinator for Supervisor John Joya, who represents District 1.
Right.
And do you get involved with veterans issues in that role?
As much as I can. So if there is a veteran that has a need and they live in West County, I'm the guy to see. I will make sure that I can provide as much assistance as I can, which a majority of the time means partnering with your office and the amazing staff that you have. But sometimes it's just to be an ear. Sometimes an individual just needs someone to listen, and I will stop what I'm doing to listen to anyone. But if we have veterans that come in the office, I definitely make myself available.
Give us an idea, a synopsis of who the veteran population is out in the West County area.
So the population is very similar to that of other areas and parts of the county. We do have a need for some veteran service organization representation, but we do have support groups. They're Angels Military Support Group. It allows veterans that would still like to serve and have a connection with those on active duty. Rhonda Harris has the Veteran Service Program where she currently houses some veterans and makes resources available to them.
Those two nonprofit, both of those are nonprofit.
Both of those
organizations,
are nonprofit organizations that allow veterans to have the opportunity to still give back. But for the many veterans that I've met that need assistance, your staff, you and your staff do a very good job of making it plain, making the rules and the benefits easy to understand, and how a veteran could apply for them and receive those benefits. That is a very personal thanks from me to you, and certainly on behalf of Supervisor Joya and those in West County.
Well, it sounds like our team did a good job, particularly Phil Munley when you discharged from the Marine Corps, and he helped you out well. So I'm glad we had that honor to do that. James, thank you for your service. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
And go Bears.
Go Bears.
Thanks for joining us during this special interview. I'm Nathan Johnson, host of Veterans Voices, and we'll be back with more.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in tonight, we are profiling veterans who serve others in their community. We are still taking your calls during our discussion and would love to hear your story or questions. We are joined on the set by Chris Adami from Swords to Plowshares. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing to serve veterans.
Well, what I'm doing, one of the things I'm doing is I've created a survey, and it's really to gauge the employment situation that veterans are, and not only veterans, but active duty military and the reserve forces, that being Guard and the reserves, see what they're facing. And, I guess it was really inspired from my transition experience. I got out January 2012 from active duty Army. And I just kind of wasted around thinking I'd get a job. I'll have an easy time. My skills are totally transferable. And I found quickly that it wasn't the case. So I joined the reserves as a drill sergeant candidate, and I am now a drill sergeant. This will defend. And during that time, for about a year or two, I was going through unemployment, having a hard time securing any type of real gainful employment. And it was a real stressful time for my family and I. We faced eviction a few times from my house, and there's nothing like not having a home. And I was luckily helped out by organizations like Swords to Plowshares and Abode Services, that serve these counties. And I got to thinking, once everything was stable, if I've experienced this in the reserves, there has to be other reservists and guards and guardsmen who are feeling this kind of pain. And as I kind of dug into the information to kind of see what was going on, I found that there's really no data as far as employment for reservists, Guard, veterans within the Guard, veterans within the reserves, and those transitioning out. And there's really no way to really say, where are we going with this? You know, as the Bay Area, where are we going with employing our veterans and keeping them, you know, gainfully employed? So the survey basically aims to capture that information and really see where veterans are trying to go once they transition out, or where they are at now, their skills, and what skills they would like to be trained on. So we can start going to employers, you know, big companies, things of that nature, and say, there's a real interest from the veteran population, and they want to work for companies like yours, or, you know, similar to yours, and this is the need. This is the skills we possess, and this is what we can do to assist. And so we really just want to help both sides in that. And it all sort of goes back to the community anyways. So that's really what the survey's big purpose is.
Well, Chris, I think it's important that you're here, and I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for us to really kind of define and kind of qualify the term service, right? Let me ask you, you said you started to introduce yourself as having served in the Army. And did you said something, you said, I'm a drill sergeant, but what did you say after that?
This will defend.
This we will defend. I thought I heard that.
Yeah.
And he said it so quickly, it's kind of like, did he really just say that?
Yes.
So you said something, you said, I'm a drill sergeant, and you tie that in as if there's specific meaning to that role in service as a drill sergeant. Can you help us understand that a little bit more?
Absolutely. The Army motto is "This will defend," and that's inscribed on the drill sergeant badge. And so, "This will defend" is basically saying, like, as America, you know, this is what we take pride in, and we will preserve this to our best capabilities. And in my civilian capacity, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is serve the community and basically continue to improve that around me, that is what's around me, and really do what I can to serve those that I can, that are in my sphere of influence.
Has this been instilled? I mean, was this taught to you? Is it kind of a core value of the Army, or just of the military in general? I mean, we really haven't gotten into a lot of the details of your service, but you just really kind of started off with this will defend part. Is this just who Chris Adami is, or is this maybe the profile of the American public or of veterans, which is very prominent and which we can use even after we've left the military?
Well, you know, I would say that you know, maybe Brian could speak to this as well. You know, we tend to, I can't speak for all veterans, but we tend to have an innate want and drive to serve. Wherever we're at, in whatever capacity we can, we will try our best to serve, and we'll do the best we can at it. So I can say that it's probably somewhat a product of the military, you know, but I will also say that in the positions in my stations in life that I've been afforded to serve in, it has only become so much more important to me to serve, and to serve at the best capacity that I can.
And also, during your military experience, you really develop that bond where you're looking out for each other. You get everybody's back. You're always making sure that your battle buddy's taken care of. You're looking out for the guys you serve around, whether it be in your unit or your squad or your platoon or whatever it be. And it seems like once you get out, you still have that conscious effort of wanting to take care of the guys you served with.
Absolutely.
You know, and I don't even mean that symbolic. I mean literally take care of the guys that served with you. And so when you find a solution for yourself, you want to share that in a meaningful way with other veterans that may be, you know, I mean, the common thread here, right? I mean, they're both doing the same thing in different ways.
Yeah, I think that service in the military is so easy because you're just, it's like getting up in the morning and you put your uniform on and then you go serve, right? I mean, you almost don't even reflect on it, but service outside the military, although it could be in a similar manner, it has to be a little bit more discoverable. It has to be a little bit more intentional. Mm-hmm. And he kind of brought you into the conversation, yeah, Brian. So
to be honest, what I've seen is as veterans transition out of the military, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, we all feel stripped, right? All that title, we were just at maybe the height of a profession. Maybe you were a sergeant major, maybe you were a captain. Now we're all a common person. We're a veteran, right? We're all the same title now, and we're trying to find meaning in this new life outside of that military family that we had, right? And I think it takes a while, but you start gravitating towards each other, and then you start finding a family. For me, a lot of that became the family I met at schools, at colleges, at community college, over there at Cal. We've really started, they've helped me out, and hopefully I've been able to help them out. They were there in times when I was like, hey, I'm not going to pass this class. And that right there is something that, like, okay, well, how can I help you? Let's work on this together. And just organically, you're sitting there serving in the moment. They're like, oh, well, if you need a wake-up call, I'm gonna call you. If you need a ride to school, I'm gonna come pick you up. I'm gonna take you to school. If you need someone to drive you home from class, if it's too late, if you're too tired to drive all the way home, hey, I'll come pick you up. And it's innate in us. It's something that we do accidentally. We do without even thinking about it. You know, I've got friends that got a friend at Cal right now that he's not in the Marine Corps anymore. And the other day, a couple months ago, he witnessed a car accident or something and just picked up his med bag and just ran. You know, instantly. It clicks in us. Someone's in help. Someone's in need. We're gonna show up and we're gonna be there for them in any capacity we can.
Right. I want to invite our audience to engage in this conversation with us tonight. I think it's great that we're talking about this because there's such an important opportunity here to either instinctively and just react, or to really kind of define it a little bit more into something like a survey or a Live For box. So I want to invite our audience. I really would like for our audience to call in tonight. Maybe you're not a veteran and maybe you're a member of the community and you're watching the show. And we'd love to have you call in and give us some examples of how you're serving. Even if you're not serving veterans, if you're serving the community, I think your ideas, your experiences would be very, very relevant to the conversation. We'd love to have your participation. Please call, email, or chat.
Chris, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your survey and how you're getting it out to your fellow veterans, and how the response has been, and how is it that you're distributing it, and then maybe some of the success that you found from it, or the information you've been able to disseminate.
Absolutely. Well, one of the main ways, well, it's an online survey, so everything is, you know, pretty much digital. We do understand that there are those who are not as computer savvy, so, you know, we can print it out and things of that nature, but for the most part, it's online. And one of the ways that I'm really pushing it out is, you know, working with people such as Nathan, working with members of the VA, and just trying to see who can host it, who will allow it. You know, one of the big things that I'm really working on, and, you know, I'm getting reasonable success with, is the reserve units that are in the area. The guard units is allowing me to come in and speak to the troops, and, you know, have people sign up for it, and I send it out through an email, let them know that I appreciate their time, because, you know, we're inundated with surveys. As veterans, everything's a survey, and as people in the data-driven age, everything's a survey. So this survey is 16 questions. I think 2 or 3 of them are probably contact information. You know, but really, I didn't try to get into the nitty-gritty, because there's so many things that affect employment that it would have been just such a task to do it. So it's 16 questions, and we just really want to get that high level of, like, understanding of what we have here and what can we do with the actual landscape, instead of these anecdotal ideas.
Very nice.
Well, real quickly, we only have about 2 seconds. Chris, I want to thank you for being on the show and for just really opening up this discussion about service. And I really, really respect and admire what you said there in regards to your role as a drill sergeant. And I appreciate your continued service. And every day you put that uniform on and you serve not only our community, but you continue to serve our nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Brian and Shauna again for being on the show. You can find a link to Chris's employment survey on our homepage. Thank you for joining us, Chris. We will return in a moment to meet another incredible veteran serving her community. Special thanks to Empower Our Vets for letting us share this video profile of our next guest.
Pride comes from the people I served with, and just who they are, where they come from, my experiences with them, where they are today. And it's really about the people, my brothers and my sisters. And I just think about them, and they make me really proud to be a part of them. And I couldn't imagine any better fraternal bond than being a United States veteran. I'm Nicole Heffel. I served in the Navy from 2005 to 2010. I'm from Santa Rosa, California, and today I'm a lawyer. I came from a very good home. My mom and dad and my brother, we were kind of like the American dream family. So I actually wanted to join the military because my brother joined the Marine Corps. So I saw him go off and I wanted to follow in his lead because I did everything that he did. So he joined the Marine Corps, so I joined the Navy. My title was a Master at Arms, which in the Navy is Navy Law Enforcement. This is a great opportunity to see the law in the very first stage, when it's actually out on the street. And then I thought that it would give me perspective when I one day wanted to become a lawyer. As a woman, I felt that there was a lot of challenges on active duty. You have to assert yourself quick and all the time. I use my Navy experience to motivate me to do a lot of the advocacy for veterans today. I like to be the voice for people who find themselves without a voice, because at one point in my military career I found myself voiceless. Got out of the Navy in February of 2010. I started applying for law schools right away. And when I went to law school, it was very challenging at first because I was just still fresh off of active duty and transitioning. I started the Student Veterans Organization because I wanted to find the other students at the school that could possibly understand me. And from there, I just started growing. Then when it became time for bar prep, I knew that I was taking the hardest bar in the United States. I was advised to take a different state bar and then come back in a couple years when I had some experience under my belt and take this bar. And then I said, you know what? People said I could never make it through the military, and I did. And then people said I could never get into law school, and I did. And now you're telling me I can't pass the bar, so then this is my turn to prove you wrong. And I did. I passed on the first try, even though the odds were stacked against me. I had a friend that struggled in his transition, and he ended up in the justice system. I then went into the jails to help other veterans in the veteran jail programs. But as a woman vet, I just had to ask, what are you doing for the women who are incarcerated? And they said there's not enough to program to. And I said, if there's one, there's enough, and she's worth it. I had to talk to the right person, and then they said I could start a jail program for women veterans here in San Diego. And I work with the women veterans who are incarcerated. I help them connect to their VA benefits. I help them connect to treatment facilities when they get out. I help them get interview clothing. I help them with their resumes. I've helped them apply for schools. I've helped them create their future plans. So this veteran work just follows me. I'm passionate about it. I love it. I sleep well at night. I tell people I'm the happiest, poorest lawyer you'll ever meet. And because nobody else is helping them on a consistent level like I am, I just can't walk away.
Is she on the air?
What an inspiring story. Thank you, Empower our vets, for allowing us to share that. And a special welcome to attorney Nicole Heffel, who is joining us via video chat from San Diego. Nicole, are you with us?
I am.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Nicole, this is a new thing for us. We've never done a live chat over the video. So thank you. We have some questions for you. I think it was very inspiring that we first learned about you when you were recognized by a CalVet Award. Congratulations on that award. And we just had a chance to learn about the program that you've been doing. And we want to hear a little bit about that program. But first, tell us a little bit about your service in the Navy.
First of all, thank you so much for your support and congratulations on the award. It was quite the honor. I joined the Navy in 2005, and I was a Master at Arms. So for the non-Navy, that's the my first 4 years, I was with Marine Corps Security Force Battalion in Kings Bay, Georgia. So I served under Marine Command, and that's where I really got my attitude from. And then I got out in 2010 after getting my bachelor's degree while on active duty, and started law school shortly after I got out of the Navy.
Well, congratulations on a successful career. I'm a Marine myself, Nicole, and we had Brian Vargas on the stage earlier. So we're all Semper Fi, and we appreciate your service to the Marines and in the Navy. We want to hear about, with tonight's topic, Nicole, is vets serving vets. And Kevin's got some questions in regards to your role of serving women veterans who are incarcerated.
Nicole, tell us.
Okay, shoot.
Tell us about how this started. What made you? I mean, we heard a little bit about it in the video, but what made you decide to make it your focus to helping other veterans?
Well, honestly, like in my video, it really led me down the path of helping veterans in the justice system. Is I did have a friend. I met him when I was 16. He had just gotten out of boot camp, and he was in the Marine Corps. And this was in 2002. So then he went off and he did 2 deployments to Iraq, 2 combat deployments. And each time he came back, I noticed a significant change in him and his behavior and his demeanor. So we lost touch for 9 years and came back in touch 2 years ago, where he was sitting in Santa Clara County. And it was really eye-opening. He told me when I went to visit him that he had nowhere to go but the life he came from, and that scared him. He knew he desperately needed help. He knew that war changed him, and he knew he needed a recovery home, but the VA had stopped going to see him in jail. So he was literally looking at walking out onto the street to nothing, to a drug-induced world, because he couldn't go back home. He had nothing. He hit rock bottom, and no services were there to help him. And this is a 3-time, he did 1 more combat deployment. So this is a 3-time combat deployed veteran that's looking at a life of homelessness and drug addiction for those untreated traumas. And I said, well, nope, I'm in your life again, and that's not going to happen. So I vowed to help him. And during that time that I helped him, I wanted to give up and walk away because it was so difficult getting his probation, because he got warrants on him while he was in custody because he didn't show up to 1 court because he was in custody in another county. So in order to get him into treatment, we were talking about having to quash warrants in different states and move probation, and people just were not helping. And here is a Marine who desperately needs the help, who's begging for it, and who cannot get it. And here I was, I'm highly educated on the outside and standing there going, I want to give up. And if I want to give up, you know he wants to give up, and he will give up. So I vowed not only to help him, but I help other veterans just like him, because if there's one, there's more, and they're just not speaking out. So I started volunteering in the veterans module in the facility here in San Diego County, and it's a fabulous jail program for veterans. They bring in programming, they bring the brotherhood back, something familiar to motivate them. They connect them to VA benefits, and they have a follow-on plan when they leave custody, which is significantly reducing the recidivism among veterans in the justice system. And we're really combating a problem with mental health and returning combat veterans because they're self-medicating and they need treatment and resources, and giving it to them. It's fabulous. I highly praise it. But as a woman veteran, I asked, what are you doing for women veterans who are in jail? And like you heard in the video, there's not enough to program to. Well, as a woman veteran, I believe a veteran who is in custody, she is worth our time and resources to reach out to her and bring her those same services and opportunities to get her life back on track. Because today we are fighting a different war. It is not frontline battle. You know, this is guerrilla warfare. So women veterans are also being exposed to combat traumas, military sexual traumas, and domestic violence. Because if they come back, if your spouse comes back and he's been in combat, or she's been in combat, now we have a really tumultuous home life. And so these are traumas, and women veterans, they disassociate from their military experience. They put it out of sight, out of mind. So I started talking to everybody that would listen, and finally the jail said I could start a program for women veterans. So without delay, I ran right in and then threw this program over the top of it. And it kind of grew from there, and it's just been incredible. Yesterday, I went down to the residential treatment facility and visited 2 of the girls that I got into there through this program, and they're kicking butt. You know, they're really excelling and paving a new future for them. And I have to tell people, this is not lifelong older criminals. These 2 of the girls yesterday, one's 28, one's 34. We're talking about current conflict, young women veterans, mothers, daughters, sisters, nieces, friends, and they need help. They're being exposed to traumas too, but because they don't come in the same numbers that the men come in, government facilities and resources don't find it worth their time or resources to provide even a fraction of the services that they're providing to the male counterparts in jails. And I don't think that's right. So my program was canceled 2 weeks ago because there's not enough women veterans here in the county to make it worth the jail's time and resources to let me come in and volunteer my time to help these women. So since this is a veteran show, I can say
Okay, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Can you repeat that last sentence for us if you're there? Because we missed that.
which last sentence?
Well, you left off with that your program had just been canceled and you were volunteering your time, and it was hard to believe that an agency wouldn't let you volunteer your time. And I want to ask a question, if I might, because I can tell you're very, very, very passionate and you have so much to offer, and I have so many questions. So I'm going to interject and ask a question when I ask you to repeat. So you're obviously providing this pro bono and volunteering your very busy time as a law firm. So if you're going to repeat that part, tell us a little bit about how do the veterans receive this help that you're providing them? How much does it mean to them that another veteran, particularly a woman veteran, is coming into a jail, an area which many people avoid, right? People never think about, I'm going to go into a jail and reach out to a criminal, to a convict, right? But you're doing it, Nicole. And so how much does it mean to them that you as a veteran are doing that work?
It means an awful lot to them. They call, they write me letters, and always remind me how much it means to them, and that my continuous effort in helping them. I haven't stopped. I haven't given up on them, and so they because they feel like it's not just a veterans program, it's a lot more than that.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It was wonderful that we had a chance to connect with you over video chat, and you're in San Diego. It really broadens our reach out beyond our own community in ways, in very unique ways, unselfish ways, that veterans are serving other veterans.
And I want to commend you, Nicole, on your continued effort and your diligence, and I just have every faith that you're going to continue to be able to serve these veterans that you've reached out to, and thank you very much for doing that.
Best luck.
Thank you so much. And can I just say one thing before you guys let me go? It's really important, and this is something that I had to get over, is it's reaching out to criminals and convicts. And when I first started this, that's the kind of sense that I had. But as I've really gotten deep into this, these are not criminals or convicts. These are our veteran brothers and sisters that have really gone through a lot, and they are warriors and they are heroes, and they, as a result of what they've experienced in the military, now have a criminal record. So it makes it a whole lot easier for me to do the outreach when I look at them as that and not what has brought them there. And I let them know that the only difference between her and I is the fact that I used the front door to get to them. And, that's the only difference that I see. And we all make decisions. And, let's just be honest, we've all broken a law, whether it was speeding or something. And I really think that if we change our perspective and look at them as the heroes and the warriors that they are, then it makes it a lot easier to reach out and help them.
You're absolutely correct, Nicole. I'm really glad you said that, and I don't know how much you can see of us, but everyone in here is shaking their heads.
Great perspective.
Absolutely. You've really helped us and our entire audience tonight learn a lot about the ways that we can be unique, that we can use our military experience and do something, whether it's reaching out to a life in prison, reaching out to someone who's trying to find a job, or reach out to someone who is at a point in which they may be considering taking their life. Just a phenomenal opportunity so far. And stay tuned. Thank you, Nicole. There's much more coming up in tonight's show. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for all the help that you provide to veterans. Thank you, Shauna, Brian, and thank you, Chris, for joining our Vets Serving Vets discussion tonight. And we'll return after this brief message from the VA.
As an actor, I've had many great opportunities, ones that go far beyond the stage or screen. In fact, my current role as chairman for VA's National Salute to Veterans is one of my most gratifying. Join me in thanking veterans for protecting our freedoms. Do that by volunteering at a VA medical center near you, or make an online donation to support veterans programs. Salute America's heroes. Volunteer or donate today.
Veterans Voices is forming a viewer advisory panel to provide direction for future shows. Your opinion can make a difference and assist us in doing a better job of meeting the needs of other veterans and families of veterans. You can help with a very small commitment of your time, only 2 or 3 minutes per month. As a member of the Viewers Advisory Panel, you would receive a single email each month with a short survey containing 5 questions. You simply respond with your rating for each segment of the show and then rate the overall show. There will be a section for an additional written comment if you wish to make one. After filling out the ratings, simply send the email back to Veterans Voices. It's quick and simple. We understand that you might have another commitment when the live show airs each month. Not a problem. You can watch any of the follow-up shows that air throughout the week or watch the show from our website and then send in your survey. And thanks for providing feedback to us on a regular basis. You will receive a certificate recognizing your membership on the Viewer Advisory Panel. You will also receive a free invitation to attend the annual Veterans Voices Barbecue to be held this summer. To join the Viewer Advisory Panel, just send an email to vetviewer@contracostatv.org or sign up on our website. Thank you, and don't forget to tune in to Veterans Voices every Monday night at 7 p.m. with new episodes the 3rd Monday of every month. Thank you for serving.
Oh, welcome back to Veterans Voices, where tonight we have been we've been meeting veterans who dedicate their lives and passion to helping other veterans. If you haven't felt inspired to stay, just stay tuned because we have some great guests. Before we go to those guests, we have a caller that we'd like to hear from. Caller, are you there? And if
Get to it in a second.
Okay, we'll get back to that caller when we get him in here. In the meantime, we'd like to introduce you to some very inspiring individuals who are going to be walking over 200 miles in order to bring awareness to veteran suicide. I'd like to introduce you to Buzz and David. Welcome to Veterans Voices.
Buzz and Dean.
Dean, I said David, I'm sorry. Buzz and Dean, we'll get that right. I can't read.
Welcome to the show, Buzz. Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you very much.
Tell us, before we get into too much detail about service, and you're going to share with our audience your role in service today, but tell us a little bit about your military service, because both of you are veterans. So, Buzz?
Yeah, I was in the Navy from 1963 to 1967. I was in Vietnam in 1965, and yeah, I was a diver. I was in what they call the junk force. I was on a minesweeper, and they used us to patrol about 100 miles between Cam Ranh Bay and Nha Trang, and to board and search. And my specific duty there was to go underneath whatever, they were mostly trawlers and fishing junks, to see if there was any contraband attached to the bottom.
Okay, contraband such as what? What might you have found?
Well, in addition to weapons, it might have been rubber tires for the sandals. tire treads. So mostly things like that. The military thought they had the Ho Chi Minh Trail pretty much blocked up, and so they thought it had to be coming in from north to the south by water. And so that was our job.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Dean,
yes.
Tell me a little bit about your service.
I was in the United States Army from 1989 to 93. Served as a tow missile repair tech and first Gulf War deployed.
Very good. Very good.
Well, thank you both for being here tonight, because you came pretty far. You came all the way from Santa Cruz, so just showing another way that this show reaches out way beyond Contra Costa County. It reaches out to all of our veterans here in the state or nationwide. So we've been talking a lot about service, and you both have had the opportunity to listen off stage, and we've talked a lot about how the military kind of builds this intuition of service, or instills maybe this discipline of service. But Buzz, for you, you and I were talking earlier, service for you has come a few years after you left the military.
Well, service for me was always there. It just didn't have anything to do with veterans or military at first. Okay. I was really inspired in 1980 when I saw Terry Fox, the young Canadian who had lost a leg to cancer, and he was attempting to run across Canada on one good leg to raise awareness for Canada and to raise money for cancer research. And I just, you know, a reporter said to him one day, "God, Terry, this is really hard." And, yeah, it's not as hard as cancer. And then I said, I'm going to do something someday to make this world a better place. It really didn't have anything to do with veterans. I didn't want anything to do with veterans for maybe 35 or 40 years. And probably because Vietnam was not a popular war. Right. I mean, most wars aren't, but the warriors weren't popular either. And so I went home, and I was going to college at UCSC. And that's when Nixon invaded Cambodia that particular year, it was 1969, and then I really went underground then. So about 4 or 5 years ago, my daughter, who was in high school at the time, said, "Dad, you always want to do this stuff. Why don't you do something for veterans?" And I said, "Yeah, you know, I really haven't been involved with veterans things." I said, "Why don't you go down to the Vet Center on 41st Avenue? You've been there?" "No. Drive by it all the time, but I've never gone in." She said, "Well, why don't you go down and just see what it's like?" So I did, just because to make her happy. And and there was a sign on the door that said, "Welcome home." And it's the first time anybody ever said that to me. It really wasn't that they said it, but that I actually saw that, had that message. I felt that it was personal. It was to me. And so I got started hanging out with veterans and thinking about veterans. And really, before I retired, I said, I'm going to do something that's going to be hard. It's got to be hard, like Terry Fox running across Canada. It's got to be hard to be important, and it's going to be with veterans. But I don't know what it's going to be yet. And then when I read the statistics of 22 suicides a day every 65 minutes, I said, that's got to be that. I mean, why isn't that on the front page of every newspaper? Why isn't that on the 6 o'clock news? This is a national tragedy, and that's what I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to have something to do with that.
Remarkable. Thank you so much, Buzz. And I want to turn our attention back to a caller. We've had someone call in with a question or comment. So we have Pete from Lafayette. Pete, are you with us?
I am. Hi, Nathan and Kevin.
Okay, we'll try Pete again maybe in a minute here. Pete, hang on. We're going to get you tuned in here to the studio, let you ask your question or make your comment. Thank you so much for calling, Pete. And I invite others who are watching the show to call into the show. So, Pete, if anytime you're with us, go ahead and talk.
I can hear you.
Oh,
all right.
We got you. How you doing, Pete?
Welcome, Pete.
I'm doing great, Kevin and Nathan. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well, Pete, and thanks for watching the show.
I just want to amplify a little bit some of the things that Chris and Nicole mentioned. Chris mentioned that he was with Source to Plowshares, and Source to Plowshares, I think, is one of the great examples of vets helping vets. Been around since 1974, and in fact, vets helping vets is sort of their motto. They provide employment and training services, so it's not just collecting information in a survey, but actual both employment placement and employment training. And they also provide legal services for veterans, particularly aimed at benefit eligibility and discharge upgrades. And I'd sort of like to invite two groups of people to get in touch with SWORD. One are veterans who need help in any of the areas that SWORD provides it, and the other is veterans who want to give something back to the community, specifically the veteran community. There are lots of opportunities at SWORD. We would love to put you to work. To go to spt-ss.org on the web, or I think if you just Google SWORD, you will now, at least in the San Francisco area, get SWORD to plowshares come up early in the search instead of somebody that's selling used samurai equipment.
Well, Pete, what a great plug, because you're such a strong advocate for swords to plowshares, and I think we're figuring out maybe an a sound problem, or maybe you're talking on a cell phone. Let's stay with you, because I want to come back to you, Pete, and I really want to hear, because your role in serving our community is very strong, very prominent. So I want to hear from you about the meaning of service. And we just heard from Buzz, and Buzz, what I heard from you is that you were really inspired by two people. So we're going to hang up. No, we're not having Pete hang up. Pete, stay with us. I want to come back to you in a few seconds when we can get better sound from you. But Buzz, in the meantime, and Dean, feel free to jump in here. Inspired by two people. This gentleman running through Canada, inspired by your daughter. Dean, what has inspired you?
I tell you, when I met Buzz, and when he was talking to his readjustment counselor at the vet center, and they had come to me with this idea, and they were the only two involved at that point, and I jumped right in. I was like, man, I want to be a part of that. So, and then I just started calling people that I knew, and pretty soon we had a team of 6 folks, all veterans that had jumped in, and we were just all excited about doing this.
And that idea is?
Journey for Change. So it's a long distance walk from Santa Cruz to Sacramento. We're leaving May 23rd. In Santa Cruz and arriving at the state capitol on June 7th. We'll be passing through this area June 2nd, I believe. Okay. It's going to take us a little longer to get here then than it did today for the show. So thanks again for having us on. But yeah, Journey for Change is not just bringing awareness through community action, but we actually have some policies, procedures, protocol that we think will make an effect. So we're proposing some ideas and some actual hopeful legislation that may take place at some point. But we're really bringing a conversation forward to look at the issue on the whole. And we're thinking if we save even one life on our journey, we'll have been a huge success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I don't know if you're still with us, Pete, but we just shared about Journey for Change, which is a 200-mile walk from Santa Cruz to Sacramento. And so these ideas usually start with inspiration and with one person. So if you're still with us, Pete, if you could share just a little bit about not so much from an agency perspective, but from an individual, from Pete being a Vietnam veteran, what inspires you, or what is it that you really connect with in terms of swords to plowshares and your relationship with them? Just like Journey for Change has connected with the issue of suicide prevention.
Yeah, I'm still here. First of all, I want to make it clear I'm a Vietnam-era veteran. I'm not a Vietnam veteran, and believe me, I understand there's a big difference. But actually something that Buzz said really resonated with me, which was that in the Vietnam era, the returning warriors, whether we were in Vietnam or on the other side of the globe, were generally not well received, and Swords to Plowshares really came out of that the original founders and early employees were all...
Thank you, Pete. Thank you for sharing that just a little bit. I think we're starting to lose you again on the sound, so we apologize for that. Buzz and Dean, thank you so much for your service to our country and for your service to our communities, because you're going to impact our community right here in Contra Costa County very directly.
And is there some place where people can go to make sure that they stay in touch with your program, with the dates, know where they can come support on the route and that type of thing?
We've got that on our website. So you'll find information about all the resources discussed on our show tonight on our website, go to our website tonight. You can also get the same information on our website or by calling the Contra Costa County Veterans Service Office. In the next few weeks, many events will be taking place to commemorate the 50th year anniversary of the Vietnam War. On March 29th, the Concord Vet Center will be having a commemoration ceremony and open house from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. They will have a Vietnam War photography exhibit, book signing, Vietnam War military memorabilia, and vehicles. For more information or to participate, call the number on your screen. On March 31st, Los Medanos College and their student veterans group will be holding a commemoration event honoring Vietnam veteran faculty and staff. This event is open to the public. On April 10th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., VFW Post 1525 will have Vietnam War military memorabilia on display, as well as a ceremony honoring Vietnam veterans. It will be held during their regular pancake breakfast. Participation in the event doesn't require admission to the breakfast.
If you have an event you'd like featured on our show, email or call us with that information. We want to thank our guests and our viewers. Thanks to the hard-working crew. And this is Veteran Voices of Contra Costa County wishing you all a good evening. Thank you for serving.